Okay, first I'm going to show you what it sounds like without any amplification. This is the Daddario set. Not too bad, I can hear it. Not too bad, I can hear it. If we compare the price, I looked up the Daddario EXL115Ws on Strings and Beyond. That's $5.69 for a pack. And then for my low string, I use a 74 when I was using Daddarios, and that was $3.09. Now when we go to the Kalium site, we have to order every string individually because they don't have a set that has the gauges that I want. And I use the gauges, let me see if I can get it here. I use the gauges from the EXL115w as my guide for my Kalium set. And you can see that the only differences were on the fourth string I use a 39 instead of a 38. And that took a lot of, believe it or not, it took a lot of trial and error before I decided on the 39 was better than the 38. And then I use, for my seventh string with the with the Kaliums, I use a 76 and I had a 74 on the Daddario. So the price of the Daddario set with the extra 7th string is $8.78. With the Kalium set is $9.95, so the difference is $1.17. But so they are a little more expensive than Daddario, not much, but it's really worth the difference. But then if you consider that the Kaliums really last a lot longer than the Daddarios for me, I end up using a Kalium set for maybe a month, where I would change the Daddarios weekly almost because they go dead so quickly. So the Kaliums, I think, are really the better bet. Even though they cost a little bit more, they save you money in the long run because you can keep them on your guitar longer. I'm taking you up now in my closet where I've got a very long shelf here. And the reason I'm taking you is, well, here are my pajamas, here are my shorts, and oh, here are my Kalium strings. So in order to preserve the Kalium philosophy of keeping the strings straight so they don't bend at all and it preserves the windings, I think you really have to store them straight. You can bend them a little bit. They come bent sort of in a package when you get them, but for me, I want to keep them straight. So this is where I've got them all stored, and I've got a lot. You can see I've got really a ton of these things. I just ordered a bunch. But I also had, from the ones that are numbered, are from various times that I've ordered. So you can see that I've used up. Here's how they come. They give you the gauge of the string, and then they tell you, okay, so I had 3 10s and I had how many 11s? 4, I don't know, 10 11s, 3 12s, 3 13s. That's how I ordered them. So here's another order I made. This is probably a year's supply of strings for me. So it's much easier to just put a little envelope like this in your case and you've got a set of strings. And I don't carry an extra set of Kalium strings with me to gigs because it's just too much to deal with. But so I just keep, those in my case in case I have a string that breaks. One problem for adopting Kaliums or even trying them is once you go with them, all the strings that you have bought and stored for later use, if you go with Kalium, they're no good anymore. I don't think that I can sell these for much on eBay. Because who buys used strings? Although they are still in the packaging. I'll note that, let's see, I've tried this is the nickel. I've tried the nickel jazz strings too. I don't like those either. But here's all these strings that I've purchased when Strings and Beyond had a 20% off sale, and I really stocked up. That was before I knew about Kalium. I'll also mention that I have probably not quite this many, but I have at least this many strings, probably 15 sets of strings for my electric guitar that are 10s. And I've never tried Kaliums on my electric because I don't want to throw all those Daddario strings away. Okay, here's the guitar I used. One thing that surprised me about the Daddarios is I knew that they sounded thin acoustically, but when I saw in my video the contrast between the sound amplified, I was surprised that they sounded sort of muddy compared to the Kaliums. So even though the Daddario strings sound thin and really bright when they're acoustic, but when you amplify it through the pickup, they end up sounding sort of muddy for whatever reason. The Kaliums actually had more high end than the Daddario, and the high end was not brittle. It sounds just really even for me. Another thing that surprised me about the video is I was playing for a few minutes with when I had the microphone near the guitar, but then I turned the amplifier on initially before I started the demonstration. And so I was getting some sound from the amplifier and then also some sound acoustically. And I was surprised how good this guitar sounds acoustically with the Kalium strings on it. And I had originally bought this, it's sort of a cheap guitar really, for $600. I bought it because I wanted to have a guitar to play flat wounds on, and I had the Daddario chromes on it. But the chromes are just, I don't like flat wound strings, especially on the low end. They're just too thuddy. So then I thought, well, I'm going to use the Daddario strings on this guitar and go through all these. And eventually, maybe I could end up using these strings. But now that I've tried the Kaliums, this guitar really sounds fantastic, especially acoustically with the Kaliums. And I'm thinking about putting some kind of microphone and then having the acoustic sound come out through the amplifier as well as the electric sound. Let's hear that blend of electric and acoustic that I happened upon at the beginning of the video. Oops.